annual celebration of our Immaculate family. Also a celebration of the renewal of the commitment that was made to serve the Lord ever more closely through his mother, the Virgin Mary. This festive weekend of the Immaculada has always coincided with that greater feast of the Immaculate Conception, which will be celebrated on Tuesday. And if you'd like to see a nice celebration of that feast of the Immaculate Conception, come back to this church on Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m., where we'll have a sung Mass for the Immaculate Conception. In a certain way, it is fitting that we pin this celebration, this commemoration together of our commitment together, of our Immaculate family, with the commemoration of Our Lady to whom we're consecrated. Because she too was consecrated to the service of our Lord at the Immaculate Conception. See, from the beginning, God had thought of Mary. He had chosen that she be the one, in all time and in all space, to bear his only Son, Jesus Christ, into the world. And so played such a pivotal part for Mary in the history of our salvation. The Immaculate Conception is how the Lord consecrated Mary to his service. A consecration that she affirmed her fiat, her let it be, as it was lived out in the Nativity of the Lord on Christmas, in his passion on the cross as she stood by his side, and in the hope of the expectation of Pentecost. You see it figured here in that window, right to your right, the second window. Mary is the first church, the disciples at that moment of Pentecost. And she also awaits the reward of being together with her Son in the glorious hoard of her glorious Assumption. You see pictured here on the left. We also commemorate the 10 years since the passing of our beloved director, Amando Llorente. Though this day was supposed to be celebrated at April, the difficulties of our time and this moment prevented us to do it in a fitting manner. And so, today, in the weekend that we remember our own consecration and bring forward those who have helped us in carrying out that commitment, families, we remember in a special way the one who led us in that commitment for so many years. For many of you, Padre Llorente was not only the one who led families and agrupados in their commitments to the Lord, he was also the one that called you to that commitment. Maybe it's also fitting that today's gospel echoes the sense of leadership and calling. The Gospel of Mark, which is the shortest gospel, does not start with the Nativity, interestingly enough. It doesn't mention the birth of the Lord. That's not how it starts. In the Gospel of Mark, there is no mention of the birth of Jesus or his infancy. Rather, it begins with John the Baptist. You just heard right now. For the evangelist Mark, the coming of our salvation is heralded by John the Baptist in his ministry. Behold, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, and he will prepare your way. A voice of one crying out in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. John the Baptist did not come to perform miracles, and he wasn't much a sight to behold. Scraggly, long hair, unshaven, torn and worn clothes. He preached in the desert and lived a very disciplined life of austerity. John the Baptist's preaching was not about himself, or about the current events of his time. John the Baptist preached conversion from sin because the Messiah's arrival was at hand. And if you were not ready to receive the Messiah, if you had not converted interiorly in your life so that you can receive the Messiah, then you were not ready to serve the Lord when the time had come. Remember what the Messiah meant for Israel, the anointed one, the one they expected to come forth from God and lead them out of their moment of trial. So if you weren't ready to receive the Messiah, much less you're going to be ready to serve him. Father Llorente's legacy is permanently attached to Yaku. Yaku that he served for so many years up until his last day. He was the longest serving director in the history of Yaku, and will probably remain so. You don't make him like him anymore. Because of the shortage of vocations to religious life, the shortage of vocations to the priesthood in our day, it is unlikely that any other Jesuit will be missioned solely to work in only one thing. Again, you've got to be Jackson of trades now. Father Llorente belonged to a generation of Christians that produced large families. And from those families, so many vocations came forward. He was telling that a large group of us who had gone a couple of years ago to his hometown in Immaculada, León, found out that it was actually his older brother, Segundo, that was more famous than Amando. They were kind of surprised that we would make a pilgrimage to see Amando's birthplace. They expected we wanted to see Segundo's birthplace. Amando Llorente, the famous Jesuit missionary in Alaska, was actually very well known. And Father Llorente's family, large family, did not produce just 2 Jesuit vocations. It produced several other vocations in religious life as well. So he has nieces that are nuns. Llorente entered a society of Jesus in León that actually had too many vocations, believe it or not. So many vocations that they needed to send these Jesuits somewhere else outside of Spain because they had more than enough in Spain. And so Father Llorente accepted that call to go out early on in his vocation, in his life. And with several other companions, he was sent to Cuba early in his life. Eventually he arrived here in Miami, faithful to the single mission that had been given to him by his superior. A mission that he fulfilled on the last day on earth, 10 years ago. We're certain that now he waits for us to catch up with him as he stands before the presence of the Lord in the kingdom. If we can also follow the footsteps of fidelity that took Father Llorente to the gates of heaven, then we can also say that Father Llorente has fulfilled the mission that John the Baptist himself has complete, to make straight the paths of the Lord. That is, to indicate to those around us the ways of the Lord, how to reach the Lord, and to take the lead in directing others to Him. And just as St. John the Baptist baptized those who followed him in the River Jordan, so have those also been immersed in the spirituality that comes from the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola. The testament of Father Llorente's work on earth is found in los ejercicios. Ejercicios that he gave with so much frequency and fervor. So many of his charlas have been recorded and continue to be preserved today and spread around you. You have the opportunity to take some of those with you. It's no doubt that Father Llorente's legacy is also tied to the spiritual exercises as it is tied to the Adoración. But don't lose sight of what the spiritual exercises were for. They're not an experience for their own sake. And they weren't an experience to know Llorente better. Rather, they're meditations that do exactly that. Prepare the way for the Lord. They prepare the way of the Lord in our hearts, in our minds, in our soul. And without that preparation, we will not be ready to recognize the Lord when He is among us, and we will not be able to serve Him when we're called. And so let us remain ready to take the steps necessary to be prepared for the Lord's coming, especially during this Advent season. May we remember that example of our beloved Father Llorente, who to his last day carried out that mission of preparing all those that he met, all those people that he knew, those who surrounded him, to direct them to go to that Christ that is here, to direct them to encounter Christ in their lives and their families. We can remember that, and we can reach Christ through those means that He gave us and He left us, through so many memories that we have, and so many chapters, and so many encuentros that we remember with Father Llorente. Then we can say that His mission was accomplished. Padre Llorente, ruega por nosotros. En el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo.